Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone. Welcome everyone to another Ref Brandon and the Todd family YouTube video. Wherever you are, whatever you may be doing, thank you so much for making Ref Brandon and the Todd family part of your day. We always greatly appreciate it. It is a Wednesday, so of course it's time for another weekly top 10 countdown. Sorry about my face being cut off camera, but it's not at a very good angle tonight. But since it is a Wednesday, that means it's time for another weekly top 10 countdown. This might be the last top 10 I do for a while. I really am not sure. I enjoy doing them. I've always enjoyed doing them. And there for a while, I was getting some views and some feedback on the top 10 countdowns. The last few that I've done, I haven't been getting a lot of views or any feedback at all. And there's just no point in doing them if nobody's going to watch or comment. Especially with football season on the horizon, I can find other things to talk about outside of a top 10 countdown. So I may do one next week. I may not. I'm not sure. But since I haven't been getting any feedback on the last few I've done, I figured today I'm going to have fun with it. This is going to be a top 10 countdown that was 100% completely my idea. And I thought about this because one day last week I did a video, and in the video I mentioned how people overuse the word GOAT. It's the most overused slogan or word in sports by far. And then I was thinking about college football coming up and how some analysts just overuse certain terms, and you feel like if they couldn't use those terms, they wouldn't have any vocabulary because they can't say anything that's natural, anything that comes from them. It's all contrived from all these slogans. So this week's top 10 countdown is the 10 most overused terms in sports. A lot of them are football based, but not all. Some of them do come from other sports, but most of them are football based. As always, any thoughts on it, please feel free to let me know. Without further ado, it's the top 10 most overused terms in sports. And again, I apologize that you can't see my face very good, but I can't get my phone to set properly. But you see my face all the time, so you know by now what I look like. But number 10 is not to take away from them. That's dumb, because when you say not to take away from them, you're fixing to take away from them. It's just like when somebody comes to you and says, I hate to complain. Well, when somebody starts off by saying that, you know what they're fixing to do? They're fixing to complain. If somebody says, well, I don't mean to brag, well, they're fixing to brag. So if somebody says not to take away from them, well, then you're going to do it. So just take away from them and don't give them any credit. You ain't got to say that because you're wasting oxygen, because you're fixing to do that. Number 9 is the term he came to play. I hate that because not only is it overused, but it's also very stupid. If you're playing a football game or a baseball game or a basketball game or a lacrosse game or whatever it is, why wouldn't you come to play? Is it the whole point of being there to come to play? You don't go to play tiddlywinks. You don't go to play Monopoly. You go to play whatever the game is. So of course he come to play. That's just something that somebody has something they want to say and they don't know what to say, so they just say something. He came to play. Well, of course he did. The sky's also blue. Number 8 on the top 10 most overused terms in sports. If you would have told me, and you hear that all the time from coaches and players, if you'd have told me last week, if you'd have told me last year, if you'd have told me yesterday, say something else. I've heard coaches and players say that for 35 years. What if they don't tell you? Oh well, say it yourself. Say something else. Quit saying that. If you would have told me, it's like somebody wants to brag on their team and they don't know how to brag just by bragging, so they got to start off by saying, if you would have told me, because that's always followed with, this player done this, I wouldn't have believed you. This guy done this, I wouldn't have believed you. Number 7 is come into his own. Not only is that another overused term, but it's also absolutely ignorant. Of course he come into his own. He can't come into your own. He can't come into his mama's own. You are yourself. You have to come into yourself. So who else would you come into besides yourself? Makes absolutely no sense whatsoever. It's another slogan where somebody's trying to describe somebody and don't know what to say. They just say that. He's coming to his own. Well, of course he did. No, he coming to his mama. He coming to his daddy. No, he coming to his own. That's what we all do. Number 6 is the best version of himself. That's kind of like coming to his own. You can only be the best version of who you are. You can't be the best version of somebody else because you're not somebody else. You can only be the best version of yourself. It's dumb. It's stupid. It makes no sense. Number 5 on the most overused terms in sports, and this one you hear a lot in NASCAR. I can't say enough, and every single time a driver wins a race, they'll say, I can't say enough about my team. And then they'll turn around and talk about something besides their team. So if you're not going to talk about your team or your crew chief, why even say, I can't say enough about my guys, and then you ramble off on sponsors. So since you can't say enough about them, you say nothing about them. Doesn't seem very logical. Number 4 is another football term, and that's take the top off. I hate it. It's stupid. It's ignorant. It started about a decade or so ago when most teams started running the spread offense, started throwing the ball 65 times a game, and every time they're talking about a bunch of good receivers, they'll say, take top off the defense. Well, say something else. You can describe it in a different way. You don't need 575 analysts describing wide receivers and all of them say, take the top off. Take the top off. Say it your own way. You can be creative. You ain't got to say the same thing all the rest of them said. Number 3 is a baseball term, and I hate it because I'm old school. But number 3 is exit velocity. And if you don't watch baseball, you don't know what that means. But if you do, you know what it means. And I hate it because it's like nothing else matters in baseball anymore except for how hard a home run ball is hit. And there's more to baseball than that. And I get so sick of hearing that. You can watch a baseball game on TV or listen to it on the radio, and every time a hitter makes good contact, it's exit velocity. That's exit velocity 127. I don't care. Talk about the game. Break it down. I don't care how hard the ball was hit. All I care about is whether or not the guy got on base. If he didn't, 500 miles an hour don't mean diddly squat. Number 2 on the most used terms in sports, they were the better team. Well, of course they were. They beat you. So just say, hey, they beat us. Of course they were the better team because anybody that's ever watched sports knows that the better team wins. So when you lose and you're talking about the other team, you ain't got to say, well, they were the better team. Well, of course they were. They beat you. The sky's also blue. We don't have to say things that are so blatantly obvious. Of course they were the better team. They may not be the better team overall, but on that day, they beat you. So, yeah, they were the better team. And number 1 is the one I talked about earlier, the main reason of the video, and that is the GOAT. I hate that. There are some people that if they had to talk about sports and they couldn't say that term, they would have nothing to say because that's all they can say. And I don't think people understand what that term is supposed to mean. It is an acronym. It's not just the word GOAT. It's G.O.A.T. It's greatest of all time. But some people, they'll say, oh, Tom Brady, he's the GOAT. Oh, Joe Montana, he's the GOAT. Oh, Dan Marino, he's the GOAT. Oh, Phillip Rivers, he's the GOAT. Oh, Peyton Manning, he's the GOAT. Oh, John Elway, he's the GOAT. 10 quarterbacks can't all be the GOAT. Only one can be the greatest. 10 quarterbacks can't all be the greatest. Only one can be the greatest. But people want to explain somebody and describe somebody, and they really haven't done their homework, and they really don't have any stats to back up what they say. So they just say, oh, he's the GOAT. Well, why do you think that? Oh, he's the GOAT. Well, how about this guy? Well, he's the GOAT too. No, they can't be. And you see it now big time in basketball. People are comparing Michael Jordan and LeBron James, or Michael Jordan and Kobe Bryant, or LeBron James and Kobe Bryant. Oh, there's the GOAT. No, only one can be the greatest. It's not plural, the greatest. This is of all time. It's one, the greatest. Only one can be the greatest. And if people couldn't say that, they couldn't talk because they don't actually watch that player or watch that team, and they have no stats and info to back up what they say, so they just say, he's the GOAT. And they think that automatically means what they say is legit because they said he's the GOAT. But if you didn't say that about 15 other guys, it might mean more. But when you say that about 15 people, they can't all be the greatest. It's an impossibility. It's like somebody in school that has 10 friends. They say, this is my best friend. 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 You can only have one best friend. You can have good friends. You can have friends. You can have great friends. You can only have one best friend. And there can only be one that's the greatest. You can't have 25 guys that all play the same position that are all the greatest. It's an impossibility. Any thoughts on this? Please feel free to let me know. Let's go ahead and get our dad joke of the day in here. My friend works for the police drawing pictures of criminals. She's a con artist. And that does it for today's Ref Brandon and the Todd Family YouTube video. Until next time, it's Ref Brandon saying, just like in pro wrestling, life can be over by the count of 3. Tell your friends and family how much you love them. Bye.